The night air was crisp, carrying the faint mist of Minnehaha Falls as I, Cyrus Kade, freelance investigative reporter extraordinaire, found myself once again chasing the impossible. It was a Thursday evening in January, and the park was eerily quiet, perfect conditions for something sinister. I'd caught wind of a peculiar tale. A wildlife photographer, one Sandra Reeves, had vanished without a trace near these very falls just days ago. Her camera? Found abandoned at the base of the cascading water. But here's the kicker. The photos on that camera? They'd make your blood run cold. As I approached the falls, my trusty tape recorder in hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The shadows seemed to move of their own accord, dancing just beyond my peripheral vision. I cleared my throat, my voice barely above a whisper as I began to narrate. Minnehaha Falls, 10:37 p.m. The air is thick with tension and something else. Something I can't quite put my finger on. But mark my words, dear listeners, Cyrus Kade is on the case, and I won't rest until I uncover the truth behind the disappearance of Sandra Reeves and the entity that seems to be stalking these grounds. I paused, taking in the scene before me. The falls, usually a tourist hotspot, were deserted at this hour. The moonlight cast an eerie glow on the rushing water, creating shadows that seemed to writhe and twist unnaturally. I suppressed a shudder and pressed on. According to local legend, these falls have always been a hotbed of paranormal activity. But in recent weeks, the reports have escalated. Hikers claim to have seen a figure that shifts and changes before their very eyes. A beast one moment, a man the next, and always watching. I made my way down the slippery path towards the base of the falls, my sneakers squelching in the damp earth. The sound of the cascading water grew louder, drowning out the eerie silence that had enveloped the park. As I reached the bottom, I spotted Sandra's camera, still cordoned off by police tape. I'm standing now at the spot where Sandra Reeves' camera was found. The police have combed the area, but found no other trace of the missing photographer. It's as if she simply vanished into thin air. I crouched down, examining the ground around the camera. Something caught my eye, a strange, iridescent substance clinging to a nearby rock. I leaned in closer, my heart racing. Wait a minute, what's this? There's some kind of residue here. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before, shimmering, almost alive in the moonlight. Could this be evidence of our shape-shifting friend? Suddenly, a twig snapped behind me. I whirled around, my heart leaping into my throat. But there was nothing there. Just the darkness and the relentless roar of the falls. I could have sworn I heard something. But there's no one here. At least, no one I can see. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. This was hardly my first rodeo when it came to the supernatural, but something about this case had me on edge. Perhaps it was the way the shadows seemed to move, always just out of sight. Or the feeling of being watched, a constant prickling at the back of my neck. I need to get closer to those falls, I muttered into my recorder. If there's any truth to these shapeshifter rumors, I'd bet my last dollar it's connected to the water somehow. I began to edge closer to the thundering cascade, the spray dampening my clothes and skin. The rocks were slick underfoot, and I had to move carefully to avoid taking a tumble. As I neared the falls, I noticed something odd. A shimmer in the water, just behind the curtain of falling liquid. Hold on. There's something here, behind the falls. It looks like, could it be? A cave? My pulse quickened. This could be it. The breakthrough I'd been looking for. I glanced around, making sure I was alone, before starting to edge my way behind the falls. The roar was deafening now, the spray so thick I could barely see. I'm making my way behind Minnehaha Falls, I shouted into my recorder, unsure if it could even pick up my voice over the thunderous water. If I'm not back in an hour, send a search party. As I slipped behind the watery veil, the world seemed to shift. The roar of the falls became muffled, replaced by an eerie, echoing silence. I blinked, letting my eyes adjust to the dim light. I was in a cave, all right, but not like any cave I'd ever seen before. The walls glowed with a faint phosphorescent light. Strange symbols and pictographs covered the rocky surface, depicting creatures that defied description. And there, in the center of it all, was a sight that made my breath catch in my throat. I can hardly believe what I'm seeing, I whispered into my recorder. It's Sandra's equipment, her tripod, her backpack, but no sign of Sandra herself. And there's something else here. Something impossible. In the flickering, otherworldly light, I could make out a series of photographs spread out on a flat rock. But these weren't Sandra's wildlife shots. No, these were something else entirely. Images of creatures that shouldn't exist. Beings that shifted and changed from one frame to the next. A man with the eyes of a wolf. A woman whose skin rippled like water. And always, those eyes. Watching. Knowing. These photographs, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if Sandra managed to capture the very essence of the shapeshifter. But how? And more importantly, where is she now? I reached out to pick up one of the photos, my hand trembling. As my fingers brushed the glossy surface, a chill ran down my spine. The air in the cave seemed to thicken, pressing in around me. And then I heard it. A voice, unlike any I'd ever heard before. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You shouldn't be here, Cyrus Kade." I spun around, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. But there was no one there, just the empty cave and the eerie glow of the walls. Who's there? I called out, my voice echoing off the damp stone. "Show yourself." A laugh reverberated through the cave, a sound that was both beautiful and terrifying. And then, before my eyes, the air began to shimmer and twist. A figure stepped out of the very rock itself, its form fluid and ever-changing. "You humans," it said, its voice a melodic hiss, "always poking your noses where they don't belong. Did you really think you could uncover our secrets so easily?" I stumbled backward, nearly losing my footing on the slick cave floor. What are you?" I managed to stammer. The figure smiled, a gesture that was somehow more terrifying than reassuring. "We are the guardians," it said, "the protectors of this place and the secrets it holds. And you, Cyrus Kade, have wandered into something far beyond your understanding." As it spoke, its form continued to shift and change. One moment it was a tall, elegant woman with eyes like liquid silver. The next, a wizened old man with skin like tree bark. And then, horrifyingly, it took on my own appearance, a perfect mirror image staring back at me with a sardonic smile. "What have you done with Sandra Reeves?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where is she?" The creature that wore my face laughed. "Sandra Reeves is fine. In fact, she's more than fine. She's enlightened." With a gesture, the shapeshifter indicated a dark corner of the cave. As I watched, the shadows seemed to part, revealing a figure huddled on the ground. It was Sandra, but not as she had been. Her skin shimmered with an otherworldly light, her eyes wide and unseeing. "What have you done to her?" I whispered, horror creeping into my voice. "We've shown her the truth," the shapeshifter replied. "The truth about this world, about the creatures that inhabit it, the truth that you humans, in your arrogance, have forgotten." As it spoke, more figures began to emerge from the shadows of the cave. Creatures of all shapes and sizes, each more fantastic and terrifying than the last. They moved with an alien grace, their forms fluid and ever-changing. "You see, Cyrus," the shapeshifter continued, its voice taking on a hypnotic quality, "there's so much more to this world than what you can see with your limited human senses. We've been here all along, living in the shadows, protecting the balance of nature." I felt my head start to spin, the cave seeming to twist and warp around me. Was this real? Or had I stumbled into some kind of hallucination? But why? I managed to ask. Why hide? Why the secrecy? The shapeshifter's expression turned grim. Because of what your kind would do if they knew the truth. You'd hunt us, study us, try to control us, just as you've done with every other aspect of the natural world. As it spoke, images began to flash through my mind. Visions of a world where creatures like these lived openly among humans. But it wasn't the harmonious coexistence one might hope for. Instead, I saw labs, cages, exploitation. I saw war, with both sides using their unique abilities to wreak havoc on the other. "No," I gasped, shaking my head to clear the visions. We wouldn't." "Wouldn't you?" The shapeshifter asked, its voice sad now. "Look at your history, Cyrus. Look at what you've done to your own planet, to your own kind. Can you honestly say you'd treat us any differently?" I wanted to argue, to defend humanity, but the words stuck in my throat. Because deep down, I knew it was right. We didn't have the best track record when it came to dealing with the unknown. "So what now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What are you going to do with me?" The shapeshifter smiled, a gesture that was somehow both terrifying and oddly comforting. "That, Cyrus Kade, is up to you. We could make you forget. Send you back to your world with no memory of what you've seen here. You'd wake up tomorrow convinced it was all a dream." I felt a chill run down my spine at the thought. To forget all of this? To go back to a world where I didn't know the truth? It was tempting in a way. Blissful ignorance. But, or? I prompted, knowing there had to be another option. The shapeshifter's form rippled, settling into something that looked almost human. Almost, but not quite. "Or," it said, "you could stay, learn our ways, become one of us." My mind reeled at the implications. Become one of them? A shapeshifter? Part of this hidden world? The journalist in me was screaming that this was the story of a lifetime. But another part, a deeper part, was whispering something else entirely. "And what about Sandra?" I asked, glancing over at the still motionless photographer. "She's already chosen her path," the shapeshifter replied. "She saw the truth through her camera lens, and she embraced it. Now she's becoming something more." As if on cue, Sandra's form began to shimmer and shift. Her human features melted away, replaced by something wild and beautiful and utterly alien. She opened her eyes, and I saw in them a wisdom and understanding that took my breath away. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her voice echoing strangely in the cave. "Cyrus, you have no idea. The things I've seen, the things I know now." I felt torn, caught between two worlds. The rational part of my brain was screaming that this was impossible, that I needed to run, to get out of this cave and never look back. But another part, a part I hadn't even known existed, was drawn to the mystery, the wonder of it all. I don't know," I stammered. "This is all so much to take in." The shapeshifter nodded, understanding in its ever-changing eyes. "We know, it's not a decision to be made lightly, but know this, Cyrus Kade. If you choose to stay, to become one of us, you'll be part of something greater than you ever imagined. You'll be a guardian, a protector of the natural world and all its secrets." As it spoke, the cave seemed to come alive around us. The phosphorescent glow brightened, revealing intricate patterns and symbols etched into the rock. I saw images of creatures I'd never imagined, of worlds beyond our own. And through it all, I felt a sense of connection, of belonging that I'd never experienced before. "And if I choose to leave?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The shapeshifter's expression turned sad. "Then you'll forget? For your own safety and for ours. You'll wake up tomorrow with nothing but a vague memory of a strange dream. Your life will go on as it always has." I closed my eyes, trying to process everything I'd seen and heard. The journalist in me was screaming to stay, to uncover this story, to share it with the world. But I knew, deep down, that doing so would destroy everything these beings had worked to protect. I need time," I said finally, "to think, to process all of this." The shapeshifter nodded, a look of understanding crossing its ever-changing features. "Of course, we've existed in secret for millennia, Cyrus Kade. We can wait a little longer for your decision." With a gesture, it indicated a small alcove off to the side of the main cave. "Rest here. Think on what you've seen and heard. When you're ready, when you've made your choice, we'll know." I nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me. As I made my way to the alcove, I couldn't help but glance back at Sandra. She smiled at me, her new form shimmering in the ethereal light of the cave. "It's not so bad, Cyrus," she said softly. "In fact, it's beautiful beyond words." I settled into the alcove, my mind whirling with everything I'd experienced. As I closed my eyes, I could hear the soft murmur of the shapeshifters, their voices a soothing melody that seemed to resonate with something deep inside me. Sleep came quickly, but it was far from restful. My dreams were filled with visions of shifting forms, of worlds beyond imagination. I saw myself as I could be, a guardian, a protector, a being of infinite possibility. But I also saw the world I'd leave behind, my career, my friends, my identity as Cyrus Kade. When I awoke, I wasn't sure how much time had passed. The cave looked the same, the ethereal glow unchanged. But I felt different, clearer, somehow. As if the fog of human perception had been lifted, if only slightly. I made my way back to the main chamber of the cave, where the shapeshifters waited. They didn't speak, didn't pressure me. They simply watched, their ever-changing forms a reminder of the choice that lay before me. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Whatever I chose, I knew my life would never be the same. The knowledge I now possessed, the things I'd seen, they had changed me irrevocably. "I've made my decision," I said, my voice echoing in the cavern. The shapeshifters gathered around, their forms shimmering with anticipation. Even Sandra, in her new otherworldly form, seemed to hold her breath. I closed my eyes, took another deep breath, and spoke the words that would change everything. "I choose." And that, dear listeners, is where our tale must end. For the choice I made in that moment is not one I can share. Not because I don't want to, but because the very nature of that choice means that I either can't remember it or can't reveal it. But I will say this: the next time you visit Minnehaha Falls, take a moment to really look. Look at the way the water shimmers as it falls. Look at the shadows that dance just out of sight. And ask yourself, what secrets might be hiding just beyond what your eyes can see? For in this world of ours, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy. And sometimes, just sometimes, those things might be watching us right back. This is Cyrus Kade signing off. And remember, dear listeners, the truth is out there.
Thanks for joining us in the shadows tonight. If you enjoyed these chilling tales, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-tingling stories every week. Have you got a story of your own? Share it in the comments below. We love hearing from you. And remember, the darkness holds many secrets. Are you brave enough to uncover them? Until next time, keep your lights on and your doors locked. Sweet nightmares.